So, welcome, guys. Welcome back to the Dr. Mo Show, where we talk about people who take non-traditional routes to success. And I have just learned something extremely interesting about myself that I'm going to share with you with Bryce today on this podcast because the best path you can take is the one to your best level of health. And I don't think you'll ever reach it. But I think knowing that potential is there and knowing where you can't stay in order to be successful is certainly a non-traditional thought process. So my question to you, Bryce, is I want you to introduce yourself. Tell me what you do for a job, which I can't stand that. And if people know me from my prior episodes, you will know I cannot stand the go to college, get a good job, retire, and then die. Sounds like my own personal version of hell. I think I say that every episode. But what for you? I want to know what you do in the traditional sense. And then what I want to know is what happened with your health as a result of going down the traditional route of success at any cost.
Hmm. So just to clarify, are you asking what I currently do now or like what I did formerly before?
Tell me what you did formerly before.
Okay. So I just like you, I went through hell and I graduated high school, went to college, graduated that. I got a big boy job. I went to school for computer science, and that was my passion for the longest time. It was just like IT and tech was just what I loved. And so like I said, I went through that traditional path and that route. I was a government contractor for about 9-ish years. And I've always had like little side hustles and things like that on the side, but like I I just got a 9 to 5 and that was what I had. And I just always thought like I'll have some side hustles for some extra income, but I never thought that I would really like go full-fledged into being my own, my own business owner, my own work for myself, be self-employed.
And so tell me then the flip side of that. What do you do now?
Now we're in real estate, and it was kind of nice because I started dabbling in real estate while I was working my W-2 job, and then it kind of just like grew and scaled, and it was like this catalyst that led us into bigger, better things. And then eventually we were making enough that we were able to quit our 9 to 5 and just do this full time.
And when you say we, tell me who that we is.
Well, I say we, it's really just my wife and I. It's not like we have
That's a
this
big
massive
we.
team or anything like that. But yeah, just
That's a big
my
we.
wife and I. Hmm.
Yes. So when did you realize I can't do this anymore the way I'm doing it?
I think I always realized it, at least like subconsciously at some level, but it was always like I can't do this, but I don't have any other option. There's no like what's the other choice, because it's either this or I don't eat and don't have a place to live. So it was like I know I need to do something, but it was never really a real possibility in my mind.
Who opened up that door for you to show you that there were other possibilities? Do you remember?
I don't know if it was like necessarily a person. I always saw other people, like, whether it's on social media or the news or whatever. Like clearly there's millionaires and billionaires who are doing whatever they want, but like, oh, they got lucky, or oh, they had some trust fund or rich daddy or something that allowed them to do that. And so it was like I know it's a possibility, but it's not for me. And then kind of the catalyst moment for us was I I sold my house that I was living in, and I remember walking away. I got a check for $40,000, and at the time, and this was again like 10 years ago, I was making exactly $40,000 from my W-2 job. So that was the light bulb moment when I was like, "Oh, you're kidding! There's a way to like make the same amount of money that I make an entire year with one transaction. What if I did this with 10 houses instead of just one house?" And that was like, okay, that was a light bulb moment. And that was when we decided let's look more into this.
That's a perfect light bulb moment. So we had talked a little bit before about how your health had declined. Was that when you were working in the W-2 job?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Kind of tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure. It was just man, it was a little bit of everything. Like obviously a 9 to 5 W-2 job. I was sitting in an office, like you're not really getting much movement or exercise. And then, as you know, like you don't do anything all day. And so you get off work at 6 o'clock and like you do whatever's convenient. You grab takeout, you just go home, and then you're exhausted. You don't like the last thing you want to do is go to the gym. And so you sit on the couch and watch TV and fall asleep. And then you wake up and do it all over again. And surprise, like you gain weight and you have no energy and you feel like a lethargic piece of crap. And you just, it's just like the American way. And that's how it was. And honestly, what I would do too is like I would use food as an escape because I wouldn't say that I hated my job. It was fine, but it's like not like it was a passion by any means. And so more often than not, I would take my lunch break and I would go and get food as like a way to escape. I hated packing a lunch. I hated like just the prep or anything involved. It was like, I'm going to go grab some fast food because A, I get out of the office, B, it's cheap, C, it's quick and easy. And as you know, that's, a recipe for disaster.
Well, it's a quick and easy recipe for disaster.
Absolutely. Exactly. Yeah.
And realistically, I mean, I'm fortunately slash unfortunately extremely familiar with using food as escape. I mean, the first time I recall doing it consciously, I was about 6.
Mm,
So I've had 45 years almost of that neural pathway, and that's not going to go away in anytime soon. That will always be
yeah,
there because food is a damn good escape.
it
I mean,
is.
it works really well. It's socially acceptable. Nobody cares if you're eating chocolate. If you eat
Right.
like you can do that in public and nobody cares.
Uh-huh.
So
Well, and it's a drug you can't avoid. Like
yeah,
you can't just like detox on food. Like it's something that you have to do. You have to eat it. And so like I understand the difficulty between like having a good balance and a good relationship with food because it's a very fine line between like being healthy and unhealthy. And regardless, you still have to put something in your mouth.
correct. Because then otherwise it's the other way. I mean, I've had a long history of binging and restricting.
Yeah.
So I have to stay in this sort of sweet spot of making sure I eat enough and don't fall into that the other side, the other end of the pool, right? Because I can go deep end to
Yeah.
shallow end and I can become just as pathologic about restricting. So it's not just a one size fits all, and that's a lot of what I do is not that one size fits all because it isn't. You can't just you're not going to buy a program. I always joke that I'm like the remedial weight loss person because yeah, I've been in 12-step groups for 20 plus years. 20
Mm.
plus years. People are like, "Oh, you just need therapy." No, I've done that too. I needed that
Tried.
plus therapy, plus medication, plus
Mm-hmm.
3 coaches. I mean, I need to live a life, but now I can live a life not run by food. Now I can
I
live a
love
life
it.
run by my own health, my own success, my own ability to help other people. That's a gift that, one of my coaches actually says, if you are healthy, you have 99 problems. If you are sick, you have one.
I've been there. And like not to get too crazy for the audience, but like I was at one point I was so sick, like I quite literally could not get out of bed for like 2 months. It was horrible. And I have never experienced sickness like that before in my life. I was young, I was healthy, had no issues whatsoever. But I would like sit there and I would doom scroll and I would just like look online, like what can fix me? How can I fix this? And just like you said, like I would have given away all of my material wealth, anything to feel better because it was so horrific. But at the time, like I totally took my health for granted. I was like, it doesn't matter. That's like, it's always going to be there. Whatever.
Yeah, I'll just keep working. I'll keep, I have quite a few friends who, I've got 12 more years in the financial plan and then I'll deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have that exact same mindset. Like I am working so hard to be successful. I want to be financially free. I want to do all these things. And my health will be available when I get to that point and then I can take care of it. Or so I, naively thought.
Right. I mean, that is what we think. And so what do you think? So you're doom scrolling, you're looking through things, thinking, what, please somebody help me.
Yeah.
What was the first thing that you did to kind of start climbing out of that pit?
Mm, man, it wasn't just necessarily one thing. It was everything. Like I was so desperate. Like I was like, I did every, like I had an MRI, I had every blood test under the sun. I like was on SSRIs and anti-anxiety meds. I was trying different like food detoxes, and like I went and had my eyes checked for migraine, like quite literally anything that like I was tested for celiac. I like anything that like I don't care, like just test me for all the shit because I will do anything to not feel this way.
Yeah, just find me an answer.
Yeah.
And what was the thing, or if there is a thing or a group of things that you think contributed the most to you climbing out of that pit, getting finally on level ground, not feeling that way anymore? Was it, and you don't have to go into specifics on that, but was it more behavioral? Was it medication? Was it a combination of the two?
Um, Honestly, truly, it was for me, it was so horrific that I think the really the only thing that like got me over that slump was the fact that just like intrinsically I'm a very driven person. So that even though I was at my lowest, like I still had this like will to fight.
Mhm.
But I understand when like a lot of people don't have that and they do, like that's it, game over. So quite literally I feel like that saved me along with medication, and that those two things combined were were just enough to get me moving to where I could finally like take care of it and fix it, once and for all.
Yep. And making those changes. And a lot of times I know that there's always a stigma, which I find interesting as a physician. I especially find it interesting that there's a stigma of, well, I don't want to take medication, right? And one of my nurse practitioners, like it's cheating to take medication. One of my nurse practitioners that works in our medical practice, he jokes, he's like, well, did you wear shoes today? Because it's kind of cheating. It's using a tool. Did you sew your own shoes? Or did you buy them from the store? Because it's kind of cheating. It's like Carl Sagan's quote, if you wish to make an apple pie from scratch, you must first create the universe.
Mm.
So, we apply these opinions to things, but if you take medication for X, Y, and Z, you're cheating. And that frustrates me as a coach and a physician, whether you're a patient or a client. It frustrates me greatly because I don't care what tools. Now, it's always a risk benefit, right? You're not going to take a medication that's going to hurt you. You've got to discuss with your provider and, figure out the best. But if you're in a point where medication is the only thing or the only rational thing that's going to help you grab, it's a tow rope. You need to get out of the pit. You need to get out of the pit. And when I went to my doctor, and I've told this story, you've never had the luxury of hearing it. But I went to my doctor who I chose. It was the first time going to him, but I chose because I had worked in the hospital system for many years and I kind of knew of him. And I thought, oh, he's an older guy. He'll probably be harsher with me and kind of tell me what I need to hear.
Mm.
And I went in and I said, I can't stop eating. I had just DNF'd an Ironman 2 months before because I wasn't strong enough to make it through the bike in that wind. I got to mile 80 of an Ironman, which I mean, I've done 7 completely. That was my 9th attempt. And I told him, I said, I can't stop medicating with food. I can't stop eating. This isn't even like, oh, I'm in response to stress. This is, I can't stop eating. I mean, like literally binge 30 minutes later. I would go to eat more. Like I could not stop. And I went to him and I said, I need help. I'm crying in his office. And he told me, eat less, move more, and find God.
Wow.
And I said, I've done 7 Ironmans. I know how to move. I'm a certified sports nutritionist. I just finished 2/3 of an Ironman. I know what to do. I can't do it. I don't know what to do. I can't do it. My frontal lobe is not driving this bus, man.
Mm.
And he was really no help. My labs were, my cholesterol was high because of food. And, and he just pretty much said, and I said, but I've been in 12-step groups for 20 years. I'm pretty close with my higher power. Like, we're kind of rocking it. I grew up Catholic. Well, I got a 12-step group. I got the things. Why isn't it working? Why, but my neural pathways are so deep. They're so deep. And so I started on medication. And within 6 hours, I started to experience freedom.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. So I have a lot of thoughts around this. My mother-in-law, bless her soul, she's amazing. So don't, but
Mhm.
she's very much a naturalist, like um if you're a teenager and you're having issues with acne, Accutane is not for you. Like we're going to get you on all these creams and herbs and natural stuff. Okay, okay, cool. And um my wife very recently started on Lexapro, which is, anti-anxiety. I cannot tell you, like my wife in the last 3 days has not like quite literally like black and white. She was a completely different person. And like it was just so normal for her. Like she wasn't depressed. Well, it was just not really herself, but it had been like that for 2-ish years. And it's just like, okay, this is the new norm, and that's okay. And we were so in the thick of it that I didn't even realize like, oh, there's something wrong. And it's not cheating. She's back to her normal self. And like I have my wife back, and like, you know what? She might be wearing shoes, but if that's what it takes, like give her all the shoes, like buy all the Nikes. I don't care because she's back, like it's amazing. And I felt that way as well when I was like at my lowest. Like I did get on some SSRIs, and I had that same stigma that you talked about, like it's this evil thing. And like I didn't feel evil. I didn't feel like I was in a fog. I didn't feel sluggish. I didn't feel not like myself. I just felt like you're not standing in quicksand anymore. It's like, oh, I can just like walk normally, and it's just a weight off your chest. And it's anyway, I love that because amen. That is such valuable advice.
And that's just it, right? You said something extremely critical. You have your wife back.
Mhm.
It's not like you wanted some different person because over time, stress, food, thoughts, they take a toll. They take a toll. And sometimes we need some outside help, extra help to correct that and to get us back on the path. And you know what? People will ask me, "Are you going to stay on this medication?" I'm like, "Yep, because I'm never going back." Uh-uh. Like, uh-uh. And you look at the risk benefit, and actually it's been shown that there are so many more benefits than we even dreamed of. So there are even more benefits. Like the risk is not there. I don't drink alcohol. That's one of the biggest risks with the medication that I'm on. So, oh, okay, good enough. Carry on.
Yeah,
So
easy, done.
that's not an issue. And I can live a life not run by food, live a life in my own skin, show up for my family, show up for work, show up for my clients. Like just show up as
Yeah,
myself in my own skin, not wearing this fat suit. And that's the thing. I'm 50 pounds down-ish, give or take. And people are like,
amazing.
oh, it's not about the weight. But people forget that when you have excess fat mass, it becomes an endocrine organ. It secretes hormones. It literally becomes an extra organ. It affects your brain. It affects your gut. It affects your ability to metabolize food. It affects your reproductive system. But we just talk about it like it's this thing we don't, it's like, cousin Bruno. We don't talk about Bruno. We keep him in the closet, you know.
Right.
And but it becomes a thing, and we can't ignore it. I don't care how much you ignore your hormonal imbalances, they're not going to go away.
They're still there.
Right.
Yeah. I was chatting my brother-in-law, he's a PA actually, and I was asking him, there's again a lot of stigma with like, especially with Ozempic, is all the rage right now. I don't know if that's what you're taking, but
Yeah. I take
um
tirzepatide, which is the better Ozempic.
okay, okay, yep, and I've heard that too. But like there
Yeah.
is so much stigma out there around like, oh, what are the long-term effects of this going to be 20 years down the line? And oh, you're cheating. Why don't you just like
Eat less, move
exercise
more.
and move? Yes, exactly, just like you said. And I asked him his opinion on it once, and he said, um, sure, like maybe there's like an element of all those things, of course, like eat healthy, that's great. But he said, for somebody who is 50 pounds overweight, what is the detriment on your cardiovascular health from all this extra weight? Like
Hmm.
it, your high cholesterol is not helping you either. So like, what's the lesser of two evils, like.
Yes.
And when he said that, I was like, oh wow, I didn't even think about that. I was in my mind, I was just like, oh, you're cheating. And people don't like that because you cheated. But you're still not doing yourself any service. Your
Right.
body is still stressed and overweight and high blood pressure and all sorts of other,
13
issues that come along with
obesity
that.
related cancers. People are like, oh,
Yes.
but it causes thyroid cancer. I'm like, it causes a certain kind of thyroid cancer in mice. So if you're a mouse, don't take the medicine and don't take a lot of it. So, and that's the thing. So we have just as an aside story for this, we have patients that'll come into our practice that in my, I have four nurse practitioners and one other physician I work with, and they'll come into our practice and they'll say, oh, they're only 20 pounds overweight. And I said, well, ask them why they can't lose that 20 pounds. Because that's the issue, right? I'll have people come in that are 10 pounds overweight. I'm like, okay. They're like, will you help me? And that's usually where it comes across, right? This is a mental health thing for me at this point. I mean, literally, my brain was quiet for the first time I ever remember, you know,
Mm,
and so I said, well, ask them, guys, don't forget. And I always tell my staff, don't forget, ask them, why can't you lose those 10 pounds? You know what you have to do, right? Broccoli is healthier than brownies. Like, no, this is not news to anybody. Why can't you do it? And 99 times out of 100, it's because I just can't. I can't stop thinking about food. I'm only at this weight because I'm severely restricting or over exercising, or just my whole life revolves around food. No one should have to live a life like that. And that's what people don't see. They think, oh, I just want to fit into a dress. Yeah, it's great to fit into a dress, but it's really nice to wake up in the morning and have your feet hurt. 6 months after I hit goal weight, which who the hell knows what that is, right? I got out of bed, I put my feet on the floor, and I just realized my feet don't hurt. My feet hurt every day. I ran Ironmans with my feet like that. Didn't matter. I'm whatever. I was still going to do it because I'm stubborn as hell. But, and that's the thing, right? That's the change. And when I started having all this mental freedom, well, I didn't fit very well in my job anymore. I started taking care of patients differently because I started to connect with patients differently. That doesn't fit the model of what we're expected to do in healthcare.
mm,
So for me, my improved health sort of torpedoed my job in one aspect and made me switch from traditional to non-traditional, where most people experience kind of a thing like you did, where, you're pushing, 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 it deteriorates your health. You've got to make some sort of change in one way or another. And then you get, a couple of light bulbs up there. Mine was kind of the opposite, where I was cruising along. I loved my job. I thought it was great. Great hit to the ego when you get a trauma coming in at 3 in the morning and you can actually save a life, right? That's a great hit to the ego. If you were to ask me if I was burned out, I would have said no,
mm.
because I didn't see it. I was doing great.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So it's an interesting perspective, right? And this is,
Absolutely.
because I sit here as a patient, as a successful business person, and as a doctor. So just a weird line to straddle. It's a really, and I get to meet the most interesting people. So thank you for hanging out today.
No, I'm happy to be here. This has been, I think, more eye-opening for me than it probably has for you, but I love it. I'm here for it. This is amazing.
No, I can't thank you. I can't thank you more. If people want to get involved in real estate, if they want to have that light bulb, where should they go?
Probably the easiest way is just Instagram is where I'm most active. So shoot me a DM. It's at Bryce Matheson. Um, you might cringe at some of my other content, but you just close your eyes, ignore that, and you can just DM me. But yeah, that's probably the easiest way.
I'm sure the content is fantastic. I have stalked it myself. All right. Well, thank you for this. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to hang out. All right, guys. To my audience, we'll see you next time.